Thank you for being here with me and welcome back. My name is Catherine Daniels and I love to empower people with spiritual healing and wellness. The best thing about Retreat to Peace is the gift of inner peace, greater love, and joy. And during these times of changes and uncertainty in our world, nothing is permanent except our souls. And that's why we need to come together as we travel through one another's countries, creating a bridge, removing all the labels, coming together as one people, finding our home in one world. That is why our signature talk today is so important. Today, I am so excited to welcome my friend, Julia Trehane. How are you, Julia?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, you are so welcome. And Julia joins us from the south of England, which is really incredible because we've had people from all over the world. So it's always super exciting to get a different perspective from someone else on the other side of the globe. For our Retreat to Peace listeners, just tell us a little bit about yourself, Julia.
Oh, okay. I'm 49 years old and I'm an eating disorder recovery coach, which is actually quite recent because I have recovered from living in about 40 years of anorexia, orthorexia, and exercise addiction. So yeah, that's like a really quick summary.
That is a really quick summary, but you know what? That's okay because there's a lot there already. So in your journey of 49 years, where did that start for you?
Oh, goodness. So I remember being about 4 years old, and there was another little girl who was also called Julia that used to live in my street. We used to play together, and she was known as Little Julia, and I was known as Big Julia. And I don't know why, but I hated that. I hated being known as Big Julia, and it felt wrong. And it felt like somehow I was wrong by being big. And I actually wasn't physically big at all. I was just like about 4 days older than Little Julia. And I think that was the reasoning behind it. But it just felt wrong and it upset me and I didn't like it. And that was like the first time I remember kind of feeling like an awareness of my body and feeling wrong. My father was a very traditional man who didn't believe in any showing of emotion in any way, shape or form. And in fact, couldn't handle any showing of emotion. So if I say cried for something, I would be told, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. So I learned very, very young to not show emotion and to bury emotion. And this sort of was helped by the time I got to like 11-ish, I discovered that if you restricted your food and didn't eat much, not only could you stay small, but that kind of numbed your emotion. So then you didn't get in trouble for showing emotion because you didn't really feel it. So I took that on and I was really, really, really good at restricting food. It was easy to me. I really didn't struggle with it. It was like, finally, I'd found something that I was really good at, and I felt almost, I suppose, slightly superhuman, that I could just, everybody else needed to eat and I didn't. I could manage without, and I could restrict really, really well. And this felt like I was winning at life, really. It felt like I was doing something amazing. Symptoms started to come in that weren't so great, like being really cold and people starting to notice that I was underweight. So I used to wear lots and lots of layers, which helped people not notice that I was underweight. And because I kind of wasn't noticed so much by my family, and my parents had started to go through kind of a really difficult phase in their marriage, and they were splitting up and they were very busy with themselves. I kind of got away with it for a long time until the school phoned my parents. And that didn't go down well at all. So I did start to eat again. And then I left home really, really young. I think I was like 16-ish. And it was easier to eat and not restrict when I wasn't at home, because I didn't feel like I had to hide so much, and I didn't feel like I had to stay small and stay invisible. But I met my husband, and we're still together, which is amazing. And he's a really, really wonderful man, and I'm super lucky. And I met him when I was 18. And things were actually really okay for a while with the eating and stuff. And we got married when I was 21. And we had children. And after having the first two children, my eldest son had anaphylaxis to egg, which is like a life-threatening allergy. If he was exposed to egg, he would, quite simply, his throat would swell up. He wouldn't be able to breathe. We had to carry around an adrenaline pen. And this really got me thinking much more about food, because egg is in so many things. And I became really, really obsessive about food and about what we were eating and what he was eating, because even if he touched egg, it could make him very, very sick. So the whole eating disorder thoughts all kind of crowded back in really, really quickly. Everything I made from scratch, even things like making yogurt from scratch. I made all the bread from scratch. I literally spent hours and hours in the kitchen. Everything had to be organic. It had to be clean. It had to have no sugar in it. And it became like a real obsession. And this is known as orthorexia. It's like an obsession with clean eating. And I was terrified of any other foods. I was terrified of sugar and putting that stuff in my body, or putting that stuff in my children's bodies. And there's so much in diet culture and the wellness culture that promotes that as well. So I thought in my head I was doing the right thing. I was protecting us all from the devil sugar and the processed foods and all the stuff that you're told is really bad. And during this time, I was also just restricting more and more what I was eating, sort of like eating less and less, and kind of eating the same size portions really as I would give to my two young children. And I got pregnant again, and I had another little boy. And I remember the day he was born, I had him at like 9:20 in the morning, and I was at home by lunchtime, which was brilliant because he was a third child and a lot easier than the other two. And then I went for a run, and then I did the school run for the other two, and then I cooked the dinner, and then I walked the dogs, and then I went for another run, and I was back in my jeans within 3 days. And I didn't stop at any point. And then I was like, right, I have to lose the baby weight. I have to lose the baby weight. Literally, I only gained 10 pounds in the entire pregnancy.
Wow.
And my poor body had been through so much, and that was just so disordered. I didn't allow my body any rest, any extra food or any extra nourishment at all during the whole thing. And I'm actually so grateful, because our body's incredible that they just cope, and they still nourished my son, and he was fine. But yeah, then just the whole eating disorder just remained, and I kind of, I suppose, just existed with it, functioned with it. Every day was just make the food from scratch, do a whole heap of exercise, like go for a run, go to CrossFit, walk probably 3, 4, 5, 6 hours in a day, go for another run. Yeah, it was just constant. And I just did this day after day after day after day, until halfway through COVID, my father died, not from COVID. And I'd had such a strained relationship with him over the years. I didn't really know how to feel. I didn't know whether I kind of thought I should be upset, but then I didn't know whether I was upset. And all those feelings that I'd had buried and numbed and hadn't felt just suddenly started spiraling, and they all wanted to come out, and I had never learned how to process any feelings. I didn't know what to do. So I did my old thing. I restricted some more to try and numb them, because that was the only way I knew how to cope. And it didn't work. So I restricted more and more and more and more until I was like maybe eating a yogurt every 3 days. And I didn't eat anything for nearly 3 weeks. And I just got sicker and sicker and sicker. And my head was just like a swirling mess of these emotions. And I literally thought I was going to go mad. I was terrified I was going to get sectioned, and I didn't know what to do. And I got to the point where that kind of fake mask you can put on at the end of the day when everyone comes home and pretend that everything's okay, I couldn't do it anymore, and I didn't know how. And I just didn't have the energy and the strength. And I didn't realize at the time, but a malnourished brain is not capable of rational thought because it's gone into survival mode. And I had no hunger signals, hadn't had them for years, because my body had just gone into like the famine response. And so I was just this absolute mess. And I reached rock bottom, and I didn't know what to do. And I just figured everyone would be better off without me around because I didn't know how to cope. So I got everything in place to take my life. And I was just about to do it. And there was some part of me, the mother, that said, I can't leave this legacy to my children. I can't leave this to them. It's not fair. They've done nothing to deserve this, and I've got to fight because I can't put them through this. And so I reached out, and some friends helped me find a therapist. Didn't work with the first therapist, and they helped me find somebody else. I went to my doctor, who put me on the eating disorder services waiting list. Unfortunately, at that point, the waiting list was, I think, 2.5 years long. So that wasn't really any help, because I knew I didn't have 2.5 years. My body was failing. My mind was failing, and I didn't know how to carry on. So the second therapist helped me a bit with starting to eat a bit every day. And then I found an eating disorder recovery coach, and everything started to change. And she's just like an angel from heaven. She was the most incredible person I've ever met in my life. And she showed me that it wasn't actually anything to do with the food at all. It was all about love and self-love. And she taught me how to love myself and how to be my own friend. And yeah, and she's just an absolutely incredible, amazing person. And she literally held my hand every step of the way, because recovery is not easy. Recovery is really hard, and it's a roller coaster. And I think the most overwhelming emotion throughout recovery is fear. Everything is so terrifying. The amount of times I sat there with food in front of me with just tears streaming down my face, because every single mouthful was just so frightening. And it's just like the worst thing in the world, which I guess is probably really hard to get if you've never had an eating disorder. But it is just truly terrifying. And she taught me that when you turn and you face that fear, it becomes courage. And since I have recovered, I have become a recovery coach because I just want to help other people discover that not only is it never, ever too late to recover from an eating disorder, it doesn't matter how long you've had an eating disorder, there is hope and life on the other side. You don't exist anymore. It's in colour and it's beautiful. And even the bad stuff, actually feeling those emotions makes you feel alive. And it's just, I can't believe of how much of life I never lived before. So yeah, that is my story.
That's incredible. You have so many layers to this, and I want to start where you're a little girl. What would you tell her today, that 4-year-old little girl?
I'd tell her that I loved her and that her body did not define her. Her body was an energy suit that she just wore to get through and experience life. And it was beautiful, however it looks.
That's so powerful. It really is. When you think about society and the way people put so much emphasis on appearance and the way you look and all of these things, I tell people all the time, I don't like, it's not that I'm not human and see people, but what I see are souls.
Yeah.
I feel the soul. I see the soul. And I look at the body as just the shell that's housing the soul, right? And there's so much that goes into that. And when you're 4 years old, I mean, the whole concept of this relationship with your father had to play into this as well on some level, because it sounded like there was some difficulty with your father and the relationship you had there.
Yes, but also just the whole culture. I mean, my mum was always on a diet. Everything was like, you've got to have low fat food. Everything about society was telling me that being big was bad, being big was wrong. And all the programming I was getting from the telly, all the Disney princesses are beautiful and slim, and all the ugly sisters and baddies and witches are all overweight. That's just programming children to believe that if they want to be the beautiful princess, they have to be tiny. Mm-hmm. And all bodies are acceptable, all shapes, all sizes. We don't say a Great Dane is ugly because it's bigger than a Chihuahua.
Right. That's
They're
right.
all dogs. And people are just meant to be different.
That's exactly right. And that really is, the heart of it is that we're designed to be different. And this whole idea that we have to look a certain way and dress a certain way. And I look at the young kids, and especially in the high school, you see it. All the kids look the same. They all have the same kind of hair, same kind of makeup, same kind of clothes. And it's like, why though? Because you're not supposed to be the same. You're supposed to be you. Like, that's what makes you, is being different, is being something different than everybody else. So I couldn't agree more. When you look at your life, the thing that you said about fear, I can relate to this on so many levels, because I was at an event with Tony Robbins, actually, and he had said, fear is false evidence appearing real. And when he mentioned that, I was like, oh my goodness, he's absolutely right. Like, the stuff I'm afraid of is really not something to be afraid of. It just gives the appearance that I should be afraid of it. And for me, it was very different. But, I heard you use that word fear a couple of times when you were sharing your journey. And when you look at those moments that you were afraid, I'm sure you weren't able to see that it really, like your coach was saying, it really wasn't the food. It really wasn't that. It was more fear around something within your soul, something within yourself.
It was fear of not being enough, not being good enough. That's what it all boiled down to in the end. I'd never felt good enough. And that's why when the anorexia first started, I was good at it. And that felt incredible. I felt good enough. And that was like the first time in my life I'd felt good enough. I felt like I was really succeeding at something. And I guess that kind of was such a high that for years I tried to keep that. And then it had just set in and it was like I had no control. And I wasn't managing it. It was controlling me.
And that's scary.
Yes. When you realize you have no control anymore, you're completely under the control of the eating disorder.
Yeah. How did your husband handle all that?
So throughout our marriage, he didn't really know any different because that was how I'd always been. He'd met me like that. I was always a bit obsessive about food, and with the whole wellness culture, diet culture, beauty industry, and all the validation, and people used to say to him, isn't it amazing your wife's had these children and she's still got such a hot figure, she hasn't let herself go, has she? And you get so much validation from the external world that I guess because he got validation for how I looked, he was proud of me. And it wasn't until everything really broke, and then he was terrified. He was really scared he was going to lose me. He booked a holiday because taking somebody away somewhere to sit in the sun and relax was his idea of like, well, this will fix it. So we went on this holiday, which, to be fair to him, it didn't fix anything. It didn't fix anything at all, but it allowed me a little bit of space, a little bit of distance from reality. And we were able to talk a lot, and we had time to spend to communicate with each other, and for me to try and explain and for him to understand more. And in actual fact, going through recovery has brought us so much closer together. Our marriage is incredible now. I mean, it was never bad, but it's so strong now.
Yeah. But and any adversity, a lot of times it brings you a lot closer when you're able to share it and go deeper into the relationship and explore it. How are your boys today? Are they all okay?
Yes, they are. They're all adults now. The youngest is 21 and the oldest is 25. So they are all grown up. They've all been very supportive in their own kind of boy way. A little bit like the food police at times, I have to say. Standing over me, go, no, you will eat that. But yeah, I think part of me before I started recovery wouldn't show any weakness in front of my children, because I say weakness, wouldn't show any vulnerability. I would never show that there was anything wrong, because I thought that was a weakness, and I thought I always had to show them strength. So my children had never seen me cry. Well, I hadn't cried for 40 years. So they'd never seen me cry until I started recovery. And then when I started crying, I didn't stop for a very long time. There was 40 years worth of tears to cry.
Mm-hmm.
So they've kind of got used to a much more emotional mum, a much more open mum. But they have supported me through it. They've talked to me. I'm lucky. They are great kids. Well, they're not kids, great boys, great young men.
Yeah. It sounds like you have done a very nice job in raising them and helping them, especially having a son that has an egg allergy. I can only imagine that had to have been very, very scary when he had anaphylaxis.
The first time, absolutely terrifying. Just the worst. I had a blue baby that wasn't breathing, and it was petrifying. Mm-hmm. But I'm so blessed that we managed to get him help really, really quickly. Well, my husband drove like a lunatic while I performed mouth to mouth, and then the police stopped us and then escorted us to the hospital. So I was very lucky. And yeah, actually, he has actually grown out of his anaphylaxis to egg. So yeah, that's really good.
That's really good.
Sorry.
I know that some people, when they experience something like that, they're just afraid to ever have anything, with what it was that they had a reaction to ever again. And I think too that, with the food that we're eating today, there's so many changes that have happened to the food that we're exposed to so many different things now. It's like we sometimes don't even know anymore what's in our food. You look at the labels and I don't know. I try to be very aware of what I'm putting in my body. But when you go to the grocery and you look at some of the labels on the food, it makes your head spin because you just don't even know what these words are, what they mean, And if you can't pronounce it, then I think we have a problem.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. And nowadays, I do try not to pay any attention to labels or ingredients, and I just eat whatever my body fancies because I can't go back down that rabbit hole. I can't have the orthorexia again and become obsessed with what's in my food or start to restrict certain food groups. I just have to have whatever I fancy and not think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Faith over fear, right?
Yes.
Faith over fear. I think when you look at your life and you look at your relationship with your dad, you said when he passed that you had to come to grips with a lot of feelings that you had. Can you share a little bit about what you meant by that?
I suppose my dad was a very, very critical person, which is why I never felt good enough because nothing I ever did was good enough. It was always criticized. And I don't blame him for that at all because that's how he was programmed and that's all he knew. And I don't think he meant me any harm. And I don't think he was a bad person. I think he did the best that he knew. It just wasn't a great best, So yeah, I just buried everything and I never ever felt good enough. And one of the things I found hardest is that my brother was good enough because he was a boy. And I wasn't because I was a girl, and he was allowed to do stuff and given stuff, and that I wasn't allowed because I was a girl. I never understood why being a girl made me less than. But that was just his upbringing, and that was what he knew. And I don't think there was any form of enlightenment or self-improvement in men of that generation. It was unheard of. Men went out to work, they earned the money, they came home, they said goodnight to the children that should be clean and bathed and ready for bed. They're seen and not heard, and definitely shouldn't cause any problems or ructions at all. So I think all the feelings of not being good enough, not being accepted, feelings of rejection, throughout my life from him. Every time I tried to have contact with him, I was criticized for something, criticized for my choice of husband, criticized for not being able to have an even balance of genders in my children. Because my brother had 2 girls and a boy, but I had 3 boys, so there's not even, is it? So yeah, just general not getting anything right. And so when he died, I felt like nothing had been resolved, that he'd never hugged me, he'd never told me he loved me. And it's only in exploring how I feel and doing healing that I've realized that he did love me, because I never thought he did. And I never understood why. And I never understood that even from a little girl, why was I born not good enough? So I guess it was all those feelings that came up. What was wrong with me?
I appreciate you going deeper on this, because I can't express to you enough how many people I've talked to that came from a similar space where they had a parent that was absent or wasn't emotionally available to them, was narcissistic, critical. I mean, there's a laundry list that's really long. And right after I asked the question, you had given your forgiveness of your father. That's the first thing that you said was, this, you didn't say it as forgiveness, but I recognized it, that it was forgiveness. And I think that so many people listening can relate to that parent, right? That is critical and makes you feel like your life's supposed to be a certain way and you disappointed them. And these are things that are outside your control. As you stated, not having balanced children, that's outside your control, but what a blessing. I mean, your life wouldn't be what it is today had you had it different, right? So that was gifted for you so that you could be who you are. And what a beautiful gift. I mean, I'm sure you couldn't imagine your life any other way. But so many people struggle with, how do they forgive their parent that has treated them this way? How did you forgive your dad? I know how you did, but I want to hear it from you.
By going through the healing process and asking a lot of questions to myself, as, is it true that I wasn't good enough? Is it true that I was unworthy? Is it true that he didn't love me? And when you dig and dig and dig, and you think, well, why was he like that? And then his mum, my nan, she was awful. Quite frankly, she was terrifying. I used to dread going to see her. She was an absolutely awful woman. She used to make me sit in the back bedroom. My mum wouldn't go because she was so awful to my mum. Well, my dad and my brother did stuff because girls weren't good enough. So where did my dad get that from? His mum.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember my dad's dad at all. I think he died when I was very, very young. But I imagine that the conditioning came from there as well. And where did they get it from? It just goes back generations and generations. And there was a time in society when women were absolutely considered as inferior and not good enough in comparison to men. And I think that it was so hard set in my family going down through the lines that when I just investigated what was true and what wasn't on all the things of how he treated me and stuff, then I don't think it was his fault. And I don't think he was a happy man. I don't think he knew how to see anything positive. I think he was taught to look for the negative. And that's an awful way to live. That's horrible. You'd never be happy if you looked for the negative in everything, because there is so much positive. And so, yeah, I forgave him because he was a very unhappy man, and that's how he'd been taught to be. But I'm not carrying on that cycle. No way.
I love that. I love your ability to have compassion and grace for another human that hurt you.
But if I didn't, I would be carrying on that cycle, wouldn't I?
Right.
I'd be keeping the pain, and that the cycle continues. And then I'd pass that on to my children, and it stops now. It's not carrying on because it's not healthy, it's not good, it's not productive. It stops.
Right. Did you have a relationship with your dad later in life, or was it more restricted and kind of conditional as far as what you wanted in the relationship? Meaning he was at arm's length, like you were with him, you were able to be with him, but you didn't disclose a lot of your life to him because it hurt too much.
So after I left home at 16, this was shortly after my parents had split up, and my mum had really struggled with the whole split and her own mental health, and she wasn't really around for a while. And I moved into like a shared house, but I was trying to navigate school and earning money and living independently, and I didn't know how to do it, and I was really rubbish at it, to be honest. And I got myself in all sorts of trouble with money. And I remember calling him, my dad, who I hadn't spoken to for 2 years, and saying, Dad, I actually have to come home because I'm in so much debt and I can't afford to live here anymore. And he came and he banged on the door, and I opened the door and I was crying, and I reached out to try and have a hug. I don't know why I did that, because I'd never had one before. And he threw a wad of cash at me and turned around and said, I don't want you back, which really hurt. And I didn't speak to him again for years. After I had my children, he reached out to me because he wanted to meet his grandchildren. And we sort of had a strained relationship where I would dutifully visit him every 2 or 3 months for an hour or so. And that was about the size of it, really. There was never any closeness. And it was never anything more than politeness. We never resolved anything. I never told him how I felt.
The interesting thing about these fractured relationships like this is that, I mean, really both people are hurting.
Yes.
And I think sometimes that's the piece that people don't always recognize. Like they only know, what they're feeling, because it's them, it's in their soul. But the power of connectivity and how we can connect to others, and sometimes that's just by praying for another person's soul. And for myself, I know, because of my relationship with my own father, like I've had to do that throughout my adulthood, just pray over his soul, right? Because even that is healing. just praying is healing. I understand that rejection. I understand that piece that just, to the depths of hell, you feel that pain, right? And it's from somebody that we're not supposed to feel that from. Like, they're supposed to be the one that protects us and takes care of us. And, like that male figure, the masculine energy, like they're supposed to protect the women and the children and all that. That's what we're taught. And then to have this different reality or receive that, it feels so jarring to the soul that it's like, what is going on here? This just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. And to your point, we see it all around us with Disney princesses, as you said, like you see it with the Lion King. You've got Mufasa and you've got Scar, right? And which one are you going to end up with for the parent? I don't know, but So it's like, I think, when you get to this place where you are doing this forgiveness work and you're able to distinguish that this person probably would have made a different choice had they known what you know. They probably would have
in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, they probably would have made a different choice, because if they could have seen that the pain that they endured and broke that generational curse, did their own self-healing work, right? That would have translated completely different to their children, the grandchildren, generationally, on and on and on. And what I love about what you're sharing with the audience is that you did that hard work of breaking that cycle, that generational cycle that your father had endured, what he put onto you. You put a stop to it. You said, no more. Like, I'm not going to allow this to continue. And that's a lot of love for yourself. That's a lot of love for your family, your boys. I mean, there's so much love in that.
That's just it, isn't it? It's love for yourself. Because I never knew that it was even a thing that you could love yourself. I thought that was arrogant and wrong, and that's what I was led to believe. That's what I was brought up to believe. And so when I learned that you could love yourself, first of all, it like blew my mind. I literally had no idea it could happen. But I realized that the kindest thing I could do for myself and my own peace was to forgive and to move forwards. Whether I wanted to give my dad peace, if he was still with us, didn't actually matter. It was my own peace of mind that was the most important. And I needed to forgive for my own sanity and for my own peace of mind. But when you do stuff to love yourself and show yourself that you are worthy and you are good enough, that just overflows then, and other people just naturally receive it because you've got enough love in you to share. That you can't pour from an empty cup.
That's so true. And the beautiful thing of 2020, when everyone was in lockdown, was that people had to sit with themselves. And some people couldn't handle that very well because they started to recognize that they were not their best friend, right? And I think that's what makes all of this so meaningful, is that people can get into a space of starting to recognize that soul work and taking care of ourselves and loving ourselves, it's not selfish.
And no, it's vital.
It's vital. Exactly. It's vital to everything. And it's vital to give as a gift for your family, for everybody that knows you. Because when you when you take care of you, then you have more of yourself to share with the world. And what a blessing and what a gift that is for everybody.
So much. Literally, people can just feel the vibration around you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, your heart just opens and you've just got so much to give that it's almost like you're going to pop, you're going to overflow.
Yeah. It's almost like you live this black and white life, and then it's a rainbow of colors. You know, literally, it's just like a rainbow of colors, and there's so much wonder and joy and love. And it just, as you said, it just keeps overflowing, and it's beautiful. And people can pick up on it. They can feel it. They can sense it. They want it, but they don't know how to get it. But they have it. They do. They have it within themselves. And
they do.
Yeah. And a lot of people will say, well, how do I get that? Somewhere right now, listening to this show, somebody's thinking, I want that, but I don't know how I'm supposed to get it. So I'm going to ask you, how do you get it?
Okay. So it doesn't come from positive affirmations, that's for sure. You can't feel like you hate yourself and you loathe yourself and say, I am beautiful, I am wonderful, I'm lovely, and believe it, because it doesn't sound true. You don't believe it. You can say the words, but they mean nothing, and they make you feel lower, because if other people can say them, why can't you? You know? So it starts with compassion, and it starts with when that critical voice in your head is telling you that you dropped the milk and you're an idiot and you're stupid and that you're a cretin who's useless and can't do anything whatsoever. It starts with you taking a breath and saying, it's okay, sweetheart. That was an accident. I'm a human and I can't be perfect. And it just starts with that little bit of compassion. It starts with recognizing that it's okay to feel sad and it's okay to feel angry, and just allowing those feelings and just sitting there and just be with yourself going, I'm angry and that's okay. I'm human. And just allowing yourself to be a human and to not try and push yourself to do everything, because you can't. Nobody can. Nobody is perfect. Human beings are inherently imperfect. And that's what makes us all so beautiful. So just having compassion for yourself, and the negative voice will be there. You can't magic it away. We've all got the inner critic. But the more times you hear that inner critic, and you can even give it a name, because it's not you. You are not that voice. It's your ego, and you can give it a name and you can say, okay, thank you, but no. I know you're trying to protect me. I know you're telling me the way I've always thought and the path I've always gone down, but I'm changing that now. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with being me. And just accepting now, not worrying about tomorrow, not regretting yesterday, because realistically now is all we've got. And so just being okay with yourself in the now and starting with a little bit of self-compassion. And if you're tired, rest, because that's okay. It's fine. We're not designed to be on the go all the time. And if you're hungry, eat. And if you want to eat chocolate, eat the damn chocolate. It's fine. You know? Stop restricting your life. Just enjoy it. We're here to enjoy life. And the more we enjoy life, the more joy we spread.
Absolutely. I love the way that you put all of that, because compassion and grace and acknowledging the inner critic, these are things that absolutely have to be done to love ourselves and to give ourselves the capacity to grow and change and allow ourselves to have that space. Is it easy? Not at first, because you're
No,
not used to it. And
no.
and it's just like when my kids were young, they would be so scared to try something new. And I would say, well, remember when you went to school the first day and you were 5 years old or however old you were, and you just had this fear of what it was going to be like. But then you started to go and kept going. And as you kept going, you got comfortable. And then it became fun. And then it was like, this is not a big deal anymore. This is the same kind of thing. It
Yes,
becomes fun because what you do is you start to get to a place and a point where when you spill the milk, it's not, you actually laugh or you think it's funny because you're not beating yourself up anymore. And you just kind of, figure, oh, it was an accident, no big deal. And it's not a big deal. It's just not a big deal. And when someone else spills the milk and they're all out of sorts because they spilt the milk, what do? You laugh and you tell them why you're laughing because they're human, right? And you help them. You help them learn how to have compassion for themselves. It's a
yes.
rippling effect.
Yeah, it's like when I first started eating all the foods that terrified me in recovery. And I would be so terrified and so stressed. And I would sit there and mechanically, because I had no hunger signals, eat this food with tears running down my face. And then afterwards, I'd be like, well, I'm still alive. The world hasn't blown up. Nothing's actually gone wrong. I just ate a bowl of food. And so it's just noticing that all those things that your ego, your mind, your inner critic is telling you are wrong, they're not. But your inner critic is not, it's not the evil demon, it's not the devil on your shoulder that people say it is. It's actually your brain's trying to protect you because the unknown is dangerous according to your brain. It and you followed, like with eating, I didn't eat those foods. It wasn't safe to me to eat those foods. So when I started to try and eat them, my brain was like, that's not safe. So it was trying to protect me in a very disordered way, yes, and in a very unhelpful way, yes. But it wasn't evil. It wasn't like the devil saying, no, 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 you can't. It's just trying to protect you. And when you can recognize that it's just a very disordered protection system that is actually of very little use nowadays because we don't have to run away from bears and tigers anymore, then you can just like say, okay, thank you for trying to protect me. I recognize what you're doing, but still take the recovered action, still do the healing. Love is the answer to everything.
It totally is. Totally is. I love it. Oh my goodness. So for you, what was the best decision of your life so far in your 49 years?
Oh, gosh. I don't even know if I can answer that because I suppose for my soul, for my own happiness, choosing recovery and asking for help. But I don't regret any part of my life because everything has brought me to where I am today. So it was all meant to be. And the fact that I can now help other people to start to live and not just exist. I mean, that's the greatest gift ever.
It totally is. And I agree with you. Everything that we experience during our lifetime is a gift for us. to learn and grow. And I think when you look at things that are happening in your life, especially if they just don't feel right, the blessing is the opportunity that is being gifted to you. So sometimes when things are not going right, there is opportunity in that. And if you can refocus and shift and think, what is the opportunity in this moment? What am I supposed to learn from this? How can I grow from this? It totally shifts everything and changes everything. But it's another way to allow your soul journey to expand and grow in a beautiful way, right?
For sure. So much. It
Yeah.
almost becomes exciting when you face a challenge to know that you can learn. There's another lesson that you can find from this. You can grow more. And it, instead of feeling down and stressed that something's come up to challenge you, it is a new opportunity, a new time to grow. And that you can actually be quite excited by it. When you've done enough work, it doesn't happen straight away though.
It's so true. So I do ask all of my guests one last question. If I were to pick up your earth angel feather off the ground, what would your message to the world be?
Really, that love is the answer.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Thank you so much, Julia, for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me share my story. And I just want people to know that it's not too late, and they can get help. And there are plenty of people. Just reach out and ask for help.
Absolutely. So for my audience, thank you so much for being here with us. And Julia and I so appreciate you hanging in with us and going through this. And as always, this is Catherine Daniels with Retreat to Peace, asking you to live your authentic life with peace. And as always, retreat to peace. And we'll see you next time.